My name is Mário. Today I'll talk about podcasts. Do you know how about podcasts? Podcast is a audio program, just like Talk Around, but you're subscribed in your smartphone and listen whenever you like. In a little more detail, podcast is a series of spoken word. Audio episodes all focus on a particular topic of time, like cycle or startups. You can subscribe to the show with your phone, listen to the episode whenever like in your headphones, in the car, full of speakers. If you are new to this can make it a little easier to see how radio stations are turning their shows into podcasts. But remember, podcasts have gone way beyond radio. We'll find out more about that in a minute. Fourth, BBC Radio 4 have a run radio show called More and Less Behind the States, all about interesting economics and number facts. That show is on the same time every week, and you have to turn in your radio to listener. But to make it easier to listen to the BBC published, every episode has a part of More and Less podcast. 2. Which podcast episode is recorded for a more or less radio episode, and they are organized into the podcast series. In other words, a podcast emerged to economic interest in 2003 has a format determined and agile, extrovert way with a fixed schedule podcast spread around the world. We will bring on some very good podcasts type on financial markets. They conduct interviews with journalists, analysts, investment fund managers in an impactful way for their audience, which guarantees their loyalty. Bloomberg Invest Talks will help investors navigate this dynamic period by tapping into the perspective and expertise of global investors and financial executives in conversation with Bloomberg's top anchors, editors, writers, and analysts. Eric Ashton will talk with famous American investor and philanthropist Ray Dalio. Briefly, Ray Dalio expressed his opinion on the current economic moment.
Ray, I think that's a convenient segue into our conversation, and I'd like to begin by asking you this question, or at least asking this of you. Tell us, if you would, about the work you and your colleagues at Bridgewater have been doing trying to understand this pandemic and share with us some of the conclusions you've reached about its impact on the economy.
Well, I think you know that I believe basically almost everything has happened before. One of the great things about getting old and reading history is you see these things happen over and over again. So this is an economic downturn. It's caused by the pandemic. And, we can even go study pandemics and what they're looking like, which we've now done. We wish we had done that before. But so there's this economic downturn. And the way it works is basically that everybody has a certain amount of income. Every individual, every company, every country has a certain amount of income, a certain amount of expenses, and a certain amount of savings, balance sheet. And so this has been a hit financially to income, and it's been a hit to balance sheets, assets. And then so think of those as holes. There's been a hole in income and a hole in balance sheets. And then there's the capacity of central banks and governments to fill in those holes. So there's a financial world. And then that financial world, governments produce money and credit out of thin air, basically, and they can fill in those holes. And so this is a moment which is very analogous to announcements that have happened in the past. March 5th, I think it was, that President Roosevelt announced that there would be the printing of money and credit, and there would be a severing of the relationship with gold at the time so that they could print money and credit and create credit and to fill in those holes. And that was the exact bottom of the economy in 1933, March of 1933, the exact bottom of the markets, the exact bottom of the economy. Similar things have happened throughout history. We can remember that when 2008 financial crisis, the bottom occurred when the federal government, Congress, and the president created a program to save the banks and to fill in that hole with money and credit, but it's also produced by the Federal Reserve to go buy financial transactions and make those purchases. And that created that bottom because they're filling in the holes.
Who is he? Stand-up comic, mixed martial arts fanatic, psychedelic adventure, host of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. In this episode, Joe talks to Elon Musk about the future of the industry, disruptive models, and what experience most market his life.
You like to get things done, like
Yes.
in terms of like what
Like to get things
gives
done.
you satisfaction when you complete a project, when something that you invent comes to fruition and you see people enjoying it, that feeling.
Yes, doing something useful for other people that I like doing.
That's interesting for other people.
Yes.
So that, do you think that that is maybe the way you recognize that you have this unusual position in the culture where you can uniquely influence certain things because of this? I mean, you essentially have a gift, right? I mean, sure, you would think it was a curse, but I'm sure it's been fueled by many, many years of discipline and learning, but you essentially have a gift, and that you have this radical sort of creativity engine when it comes to innovation and technology. It's like you're going at a very high RPMs.
All the time.
What is that like?
Doesn't stop. I don't know what would happen if I got into a sensory deprivation tank.
Let's try it.
It sounds concerning. It's
But
like
why?
running the engine with no resistance. That seems.
Is that what it is, though? Maybe it's not.
Maybe it's fine. I don't know.
How
I'll
much-
try it. I'll try it.
Have you ever
It's fine.
experimented with meditation or anything?
Yes.
What do you do? Or what have you done, rather?
I mean, you just sort of sit there and be quiet and then repeat some mantra, which acts as a focal point. It does still the mind. It does still the mind. But I don't find myself drawn to it frequently.
As I present in this video, these days podcast has become an important tool for absorbing knowledge in the form of entertainment, not only financial area, as I used in the example video, but all possible areas. Just put in your headphones and listen. Simple. Most of them not have recording methods. It guarantees a lot of content on platform, which people have resourced for very often, from specific areas of knowledge to very specific sectors. They go from conversations with teachers about new technical methods, interviews with comedians, commentators on books and films, step-by-step computer maintenance, and philosophical rambling subjects about. Podcasts have become entertainment tools, which people choose the time they want to hear, who they want to hear. Today, you no longer need to stop watching something, just listening. The feedback comes with sharing on social networks, refers to friends, and likes on the official pages of the programs in addition to subscriptions on the platforms. This is information revolution with yours.